Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make tech house like Eli Brown. As usual, you get the project file and samples and MIDI, presets, all that stuff in this video in the description. And if you're patient on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So this loop you heard in the intro, we're at 127 BPM. The first sound I have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So these are the kind of bass lines you hear in a lot of these tracks. You can see it's just a super like sort of like staccato notes like this. Here's the bass line. It's a really simple bass line. If I pitch it up, you can hear it a little bit easier. So yeah, it's literally just three notes. We just have F and then F sharp and G sharp, and then the note up here is just an F or a G sharp up there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so pretty simple in terms of notes, but it's just really solid and fat sounding and full in the mix like this, as you can hear. For the sound on this one, it's made on operator, so what we have here is just a bit of a saw wave, and then I have a square wave as well. You can see I have the envelopes set like this. And yeah, the square wave, you can see, isn't doing any FM because I have it on this FM algorithm where it's just the two playing side by side. But you can hear it adds a lot of fatness. Here's without it. And then with it. It just really rounds the sound out and like makes it a bit more full. And yeah, then I've got that going into low pass. You can see it set like this. We got the envelope like that. Then we just have a bit of drum bus to fatten the sound up a little bit. Then I have this EQ8, which is cutting here. You can see this is mostly just cutting out a bit of space for the kick because these two cuts here are pretty much where the kick is hitting. And then we also have a low end boost. And the last thing here is I just have it sidechained to the kick a little bit. Because even though this doesn't play at the same time as the kick ever, well, except for that one note there, you can see if I turn this off, the bass kind of overtakes the kick a little bit, but when you sidechain it like that, it keeps it clean while still getting that fullness out of the bass. And yeah, that is it for the bass. After that, we have the kick, which sounds like this. And this one's pretty simple, to be honest with you. This one's more just about getting like a really fat, full-sounding sample like this. Like, you can see we have this one, which is like a really fat 909 style kick that I've made. And then you can see I've got this just faded out a little bit, and then I just have it going into a little bit of drum bus to beef it up. And yeah, then we have the bass and the kick in a group together. It's a technique known as bussing. I do this a lot. You can see I've done it throughout this entire project file. It's just really the best way to get all these sounds to fit together. You know, like we've done it with the low end. We've done it with the percussion. We've done it with the hi-hats. It's like, again, it's just the best way to take sort of like similar sounds here and get them to fit together really well. And a lot of times when you hear like a beginner mix or a mix from somebody who just kind of doesn't know what they're doing and it doesn't really have that like full professionalness to it and doesn't really like hit right, this is why. It's just because of not doing this. Like, this technique is really important for getting your bass line and your kick to fit together. So I'll show you. The processing isn't really doing too much. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can see what we're doing here is we just have a little bit of saturation just to give a little bit of glue. And kind of make these come together a little bit more as one. And then we just have an EQ8, which is boosting the low end. And then also boosting 100 hertz, which makes a little bit more punch in the kick. Again, here's without the processing. And with it, it's subtle. It's not like we need this to really get like any more power out of the drums or anything, or out of the kick and bass. But it's just kind of like gluing them together a little bit more and making the low end a little bit tighter. After that, we have the hi-hats, which sound like this. So what we got here is we have this hi-hat on the upbeats. You can see it's just these two open hi-hats. We got this one. And then this one. So we have one for kind of like the high end and one for like the body. Yeah, so this is like a good way to kind of explain layering here. It's like when you layer a hi-hat or really any sound like this, it's not just about layering two things together to make it bigger. It's about making it bigger by layering two things together that are in completely different places. So like in the case of this, for example, we have one in the mid-range, and then we get one in the high end. And when you put them together, it comes together really nicely. And then I have a bit of saturation on that to kind of make those sound more like one. And yeah, then we also have the shaker, which it kind of has a hi-hat, shaker, hi-hat, same thing pretty much. You can see, yeah, really simple, just playing straight 16 notes. And then on both of those, I have just a little bit of drum bus and then a bit of an EQ. So here's without these. And then with them, so you can see with the hi-hats, this drum bus, or any kind of saturation really, is really important for getting like that fullness. You know, to really get them like glued together like that. And to really get them to hit right, you gotta do this. And then the EQ just cuts out some low end and boosts a little bit of high end, just to kind of make them a bit sharper. And then just make sure there's no like underneath everything. And yeah, then after that we got the percussion, which sounds like this. So this is just everything, like all this extra sort of little percussion here. You can see we have like a clap, playing on the 2 and 4. And then we have these 3 little percussion sounds. So we have like this little one that just plays like kind of high pitched on the upbeats. And then it stops on that last one because there's this one that plays on that upbeat. And then we have that one just doing that 16th note there. So yeah, you can see like when you make these little percussions like this, it's not just like getting them in there and having percussion just to have it. You want them to kind of like dance off of each other. You know? It's all playing together. Just this on its own gives you a lot of the rhythm. But then when you put it in the mix, it ties the whole thing together. And the other thing to keep in mind here too is this percussion. This is something that I noticed when listening to a lot of these tracks, but I was not really always thinking to do. It's like just having something like this that's kind of like just dun, dun, on top of the hi-hat like that can actually make a pretty big difference in the mix. Even though it's a pretty small layer, like all things considered. And then on the percussion, there's a bit of drum bus and a bit of EQ. Here's without that. And then with it, it's the same deal as the hi-hats. You can hear this just really helps to bring everything out and make it hit a little bit more. So then the last thing that we have along the bottom here are these 4 layers, these sort of like extra things. So the way this style of tech house works is you kind of have like the foundation, like that's the main groove, right? All the hi-hats and percussion and the kick and bass. But obviously, you can't just have that on its own. You need something on top of that that's kind of moving and changing and like adding some extra stuff. So that's what this stuff does. You know, it's just like some extra sort of background stuff like this. Like you can see, we have this vocal sample, this turn it up. Just got a little bit of echo on that. We've got like this little zap sound that I made. Which I just made this using Operator. You can see it's just a saw wave, and then the pitch envelope is really what does this. You can see it's like set like that. It goes like, wow. And then we have a bit of drum bus. Then we have this little like noise here. Yeah, just like a simple, just some white noise, a little bit of a high pass, got a side chain. And then we also have this extra clap up here. So again, like these just give it something that's kind of like coming in and adding something on top of the foundation. You can't just have the kick and bass and percussion, because I think if you do that, it gets a bit boring. And it's one of those things where like even you could have something that sounds as professional as this, but then if you try to make a track where it's only this, I just think it's going to be a bit boring. So this way. We just have something coming in and out on top of this. And the idea is to have something every bar. It's kind of like this bar is at the start of the bar, this bar is at the end of the bar. This bar is at the start of the bar, this bar is at the end of the bar. It's like, doing little things like that to just make it so that it's going to come to life a lot more now. And also this gives you some stuff to play around with too, because you can make cool sounds like this little zap, or like, using this vocal sample here. And yeah, so whenever you're making a track like this, the way I always try to do it is I'll start with the kick and bass always, just because like that is really the foundation. And then maybe from there, like, we add in this hi-hat. And then I'll usually do the clap. You get that sounding really good. Then you add like... Then we can start adding in the percussion. And then once you have all that, it's really not that hard to go in and add this stuff. And yeah, there you go. That's it. That's how you make tech house. So that's from here for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments as well. As I said in the beginning, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, all of that from this video in the description. If you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.